When picking up my digital camera, sometimes I wish it felt a bit less digital. But this video is all about the experience and the joy of using beautifully designed cameras and the film-like image quality some of them can produce. In short, it's all about tones and vibes. Keep watching to see our selection of digital cameras that feel like film. Hi, I'm Jakub from MPB and I'm a videographer, but I'm also a film photographer in my spare time. Personally, I believe that cameras aren't just for delivering perfectly sharp images with astounding dynamic range. They are also about the fun of using them. And cameras are also beautiful objects to use and to look at. The cameras I'm talking about today will give you a great tactile photographing experience, and some of them are also praised for their film-like image quality. For me, when it comes to judging whether a camera feels like film, one of the most important features is an optical viewfinder. They give me what I really like about the old cameras, a feeling of being in the moment while taking a photo and not just staring at a screen. It also comes down to the body design, the looks, and the presence of physical controls. Let's start with, I dare to say, the most adorable digital camera I have ever used. The Fujifilm X10. X10 is a small but capable compact camera with a built-in zoom lens and a 12 megapixel 2/3 of an inch sensor. In terms of its looks, it reminds me a little bit of one of my favorite film cameras, the tiny Yashica Electro 35MC. When using the X10, you can turn off the LCD screen completely and just use the optical viewfinder, which doesn't display any overlays. It's as pure and clean as possible. If you want some basic information displayed in the viewfinder, go for its successor, the X20. Or you can buy the X30, which has a modern electronic viewfinder. The Fujifilm X10 is a great everyday snapshot camera. It's just perfect for weekend trips. It's small, lightweight, stylish and unobtrusive, and the quality it delivers is still quite good. It was released in 2011, so its features like autofocus are rather basic compared to modern cameras, but I think it still holds up pretty well. As you can see, I don't have the original X10 with me today, but its successor, the X20. And that's because in MPB we trade used camera kits, so we just don't always have everything in stock. But if there is a piece of equipment you have your eye on and it's not available at the moment, you can always set up a reminder and we'll send you an email as soon as it's back in stock. And don't forget, you can also sell us your older camera for other photographers to enjoy. Another beautifully designed camera from Fujifilm is the Fujifilm X100. Although the original X100 has been since superseded by a few more cameras in the series and can be a little slow to use, the X100 is still, unsurprisingly, a great camera. All the X100 cameras, from the original X100 up to the X100V, they all have robust retro-looking bodies and an APS-C side sensor and a fixed 35mm equivalent lens. And the physical controls are just a pleasure to use. But their most unique feature that I really like is the hybrid viewfinder. With this lever on the front, you can switch it from being an optical viewfinder for a more analog experience to an electronic one if you want a real-time preview of how your photo is going to exactly look like. You might think having a fixed lens is a limiting factor, but in my opinion it's the complete opposite. Of course, I wouldn't use X100 for professional work, but if you're a hobbyist photographer, I think having this limitation actually forces you to be more creative, as you have to change the angle using your body, your feet. You have to come close to your subject instead of just zooming in with a lens. Although the latest model, the Fujifilm X100V, is in such a high demand that it's really hard to buy, you can buy all of the previous models used, and they are all amazing and stylish cameras. The last Fujifilm camera on the list is one I see as a perfect marriage between retro styling and the modern technology. The Fujifilm X-Pro 3. Despite its classic rangefinder style body, it's not just a fashion accessory. It's a camera capable of delivering truly professional results, but enclosed in a stylish and robust body. Similar to the compact X100, the X-Pro 3 also has the amazing hybrid viewfinder and physical controls on the body. It also features the film simulation modes, which are fun to play with and really useful for achieving great-looking JPEGs straight out of camera. That's a nice feature for the analog photography lovers out there who just don't enjoy spending hours in front of the computers editing their raw files. But there is one feature of the Fujifilm X-Pro 3 that really sets it apart from the competition, and it's the way Fujifilm bravely designed the LCD screen. It opens up only in one direction, meaning you can either shoot with it being closed or sticking out at the bottom, which is rather inconvenient. But it forces you to close the LCD screen and take photos with your eye to the viewfinder, exactly like you would with an old film camera. Also, at the back of the X-Pro 3 there is a small secondary display which shows you the basic settings of the camera like ISO, shutter speeds, and the chosen film simulation modes. It looks different depending on which film simulation mode is chosen and really reminds me of the small piece of film stock packaging that film photographers put at the back of the camera as a reminder of which stock is loaded inside. And just listen to this shutter sound. Right, enough Fujifilm cameras. There are plenty of other cameras on the market that will give you a film-like shooting experience. First up, there is the Olympus PEN-F. I'm making an exception here as it's the one camera on the list that doesn't have an optical viewfinder but only an electronic one. And it's a feature that distinguishes it from the main Olympus Pen line as they usually don't have any viewfinder at all. The design of the Olympus PEN-F resembles the original film camera from the 60s. It has the classic look and lots of physical controls on the body. It even has a dedicated dial on the front for choosing a creative style. It's one of the many features of this camera that will make JPEG shooters really happy. For example, using this dial you can switch from color to black and white with just a single flick. You can also adjust saturation of specific colors, which is handy, or choose one of the art filters, which I personally think feels a bit too cheap. The Olympus PEN-F is an amazing everyday and holiday camera. It's small, it's stylish, and it can deliver pleasing looking images without fussing with any post-processing. But, of course, you can shoot RAW as well, if you want more control over the final output. Olympus PEN-F is definitely one of the cameras that you just always want to have with you and use. And now it's time for the chunky boy, the Nikon Df. It is a full-frame DSLR with proper optical viewfinder and many physical controls on the body. It has the same 16-megapixel sensor found in the Nikon D4, but in terms of body design, it looks more like the analog Nikon F3 from the 80s. When released, it was advertised as Nikon's return to a pure photography experience. It doesn't even have any video functionality, even though the sensor is, in theory, capable of capturing video. Beside lacking video, which many purists see as an unnecessary feature in the stills cameras, the Nikon Df has a few other features aimed at more traditional photographers. The Df has a threaded shutter release cable slot. You can turn off the images review on the LCD completely to shoot without seeing your images, exactly like on film cameras. And there is even a system for using very old Nikon lenses on it. The Nikon Df is all about the design philosophy and experience. It looks beautiful and provides a very tactile user experience. However, I feel like Nikon pushed the retro-inspired design maybe a bit too far with this one, but of course, it's a matter of personal preference. I have to also mention the Nikon Df's younger cousin, the Nikon Z. I'm not going to go into details about it, as there is a more in-depth review of it on our channel, but unlike the Df, the ZFC is a mirrorless camera with an APS-C sized sensor. Being a mirrorless camera, it doesn't have an optical viewfinder, just an electronic one, and it feels maybe a bit like fragile to my taste, but I imagine it could be a great choice for someone looking for a light, retro-looking everyday camera. By talking about the Nikon Df, I touched on the DSLRs topic. I want to make a small detour here to talk about cameras that don't come to mind at first when we talk about nice looking cameras, but they are very film-like. And some of them, especially the older ones, have a component that some people perceive as one that creates very film-like images: a CCD sensor. Explaining how a CCD sensor differs from a CMOS sensor, which is the most popular type used in modern digital cameras, is far beyond the scope of this video. Let's just say CCD sensors were commonly used in the cameras from the early 2000s, and many photographers are rediscovering this older technology to achieve an old-school look. I have two examples of such cameras with me today, and it's a Fujifilm S5 Pro and a Nikon D200. Not only the look of the images coming from those older sensors reminds people of film, but also the design of DSLRs comes straight from film SLRs, of course. They may not look as nice as the modern rangefinder style bodies, for example from Fujifilm, but this is what the cameras used to look like. And there is just nothing like the crunch coming from the slapping mirror while taking an image on a DSLR. What surprised me the most while testing these cameras is how well the images coming from them stood the test of time. Of course, they are clunky and slow in modern terms, the LCD screens are terrible, and the ISO performance is far from what we expect from modern digital cameras. But the images taken in good light, they still look really good. Speaking of CCD sensors and digital cameras that look almost exactly like their film ancestors, this brings us to the next section: Leica cameras. Today I'm talking about two Leicas with a CCD sensor, Leica M8 and M9, the former having an APS-H sized sensor and the latter having a full frame sensor. Both are traditional manual-only focus rangefinders, praised for their build and image quality. But to be honest, all of the Leica digital rangefinders give a very film-like tactile experience, and they look amazing. And if you're looking for the ultimate analog-like experience, but with a digital camera, there are models like Leica MD or Leica M10D, which don't even have an LCD screen. That's a treat for the most dedicated photography purists out there. It was quite a long list, but I'm sure there are many film-like digital cameras out there that I somehow overlooked. Which cameras give you a film-like shooting experience? Share them with us in the comments, and of course, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to MPB's YouTube channel. See you next time.